It is that time of year again. It is nearly Booker season. So let's predict some Booker books and see how wrong I am. Hello, book friends. It's Alyssa. Welcome back to the channel. Hello, if you are new. I am maybe ready to predict some Booker 2024 long-listed books. I am going to say now that I'm probably going to be wrong about the majority of these. I feel like they're just going to pick some random garbage we've never heard about, and then I'm going to spend the next 6 weeks following the long list announcement just frantically reading these and posting unhinged mini quick reviews and pissing off somebody like I did last year with Prophet Song. I'm going to stick to my once proven strategy of picking the winner of the Booker. That is that the book that I hate the most is probably the one that is going to win, but we will discuss that later in this Booker season. Right now, it is time to discuss rules and go through my predictions. I'm not going to do a comprehensive list of the rules. I can link the PDF in the description if you are the kind of person that needs to know all the rules. The biggest and most important rule for Booker is that the books must be published in the UK or in Ireland between October 1st of 2023 and September 30th of 2024, which means when the long list is announced, there's often one book that has not been, or two books that have not been released yet. And I don't know what those books are going to be for this year. I don't think that I have any of those on my predictions list, but there's going to be some surprises. There always are. I'm excited to see what they are. They have to be a work of fiction, originally written in English. It must be like a continuous work, so it can't be a short story collection unless they're interconnected. It can't be like a collection of poems, anything like that. It can't be self-published, and the author must be living at the time it is submitted or called in. And the work will only remain eligible for as long as its author is alive through the various stages of the prize up to the time that the announcement of the winner, though this is up to the discretion of the head honcho of Booker. And then that head honcho can also just decide that something is eligible. There are about 160 some odd books that are technically eligible for the Booker this year. Each imprint gets a certain number of submissions. So you get one submission if you're a publisher with no long listed books. You get two if you have one or two. You get three if you have three or more. The judges can call in books as well that aren't submitted by the publishing houses. So there's a lot of moving parts in this to whittle down to 12 or 13 books. The Booker doesn't. So that's the general overview of the rules. I just really hope that all my books are technically within the eligibility period, because if they are not, Owen, I know you're watching, and they will call me out in the comments. But anyway, I have spent entirely too long trying to figure this out, and I haven't read a lot of the books that are like, I've read a lot of books that are eligible technically for a Booker, but I haven't read a lot of the books that are like actually potentially Booker long list books for the year. But there are a lot of people that are repeat Booker long listed authors and winners, which is interesting. So there's a lot of potential to have some oldies on this list, some like tried and true Booker authors. It's what I'm going to find really interesting is what new authors, what random things show up, like Western Lane did last year. I want to know what like the Western Lane of 2024 is going to be, and we're going to find that out in a couple weeks here. Oh, I should probably say when the long list is announced. Did I even say that? I didn't. Tuesday, July 30th, we will get the long list of 12 or 13 Booker books, and the short list of 6 books will be announced on Monday, the 16th of September. So we do actually have quite a decent chunk of time to read these books in, as opposed to in other years, but it's really fast. And one of the books that I have on my little predictions list that I think is on a couple people's lists is quite long. So I'm gonna take a sip of this and we're gonna go through my my predictions. So these are in absolutely no particular order, and because I haven't read most of these, I don't really know all that much about it. I've watched a couple other prediction videos. I've gone through like all the eligible lists. Thank you, Scott, over at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, for putting in your description literally like 160 some odd books to comb through. And I have compiled a list of books. Some of them are vibes, some of them are selfish because I want to read them, some of them are, yeah, maybe good picks, I'm not sure. Some of them just seem like books that a lot of other people are picking, so maybe, I don't know, but that doesn't really work well when you're picking Booker books, because we all remember what happened with Zeeb Copperhead and how upset everybody was when that wasn't picked last year. So anyway, so I'm going to start at the top. These are in absolutely no particular order. They're just how they landed in this iPhone Notes app list that I created. So we're gonna start with Orbital by Samantha Harvey. I think that this is really interesting and I would like to read it. So this is kind of in that selfish, I'd like to read it category. Orbital follows 6 astronauts that are in a spacecraft, and they are reflecting back on Earth. That is their observations. It is what they witnessed throughout this single day on this spacecraft. And it just sounds like it's going to be a really beautiful and interesting read, maybe even a little bit like suffocating at times. I feel like a lot of books where you're just stuck on a spaceship feel very suffocating to me. And the little quote I'm going to give you from Goodreads says, "A book of wonder, Orbital is nature writing from space in an unexpected and profound love letter to life on Earth." So I don't know, it feels literary and interesting, like a twist that you don't normally see in literary fiction. We don't get a lot of good blends of sci-fi and literary fiction, in my humble opinion. So this sounds interesting and is definitely like I would like to read this, so I hope it's longlisted at least. And then we have a previous longlisted author with There Are Rivers in the Sky by Alyssa Shafak. I'm going to say that wrong, but anyway. This sounds really good. One of my friends started reading this. I loved The Island of Missing Trees. I wanted more from the fig tree. I know not everybody feels that way, but this is an enchanting new tale about 3 characters living along 2 rivers, all under the shadow of one of the greatest epic poems of all time. I mean, we've already had a book on the long list that is inspired by an epic poem with Pearl. I'm sure there are others. It is very interesting. We're in Turkey and we're also in London, following these 2 characters in 2 different sort of timelines. There Are Rivers in the Sky entwines these outsiders, these 2 different people, with a single drop of water, a drop which manifests across the centuries, both a source of life, a harbinger of death. Rivers, the Tigris and the Thames, transcend history, transcend fate. Water remembers. It is humans who forget. I think this is going to be beautiful. I hope this is longlisted. Again, this is in that category of books that I selfishly want to be longlisted because I want to read it. Next is another Booker previous longlisted author, and that is Roddy Doyle with The Woman Behind the Door. And I feel like because there are some other previously longlisted authors that have books that are available, are eligible, that I didn't put on this list simply because I feel like we've seen them maybe too recently. But I feel like Roddy Doyle, maybe it's time for Roddy Doyle to have another little resurgence on the Booker long list. I don't know. I just make this shit up. I don't know. Does anybody really know anything? Maybe Bob the Bookerer, but that's about it. So this follows Paula Spence, a mother, grandmother, widow, addict, and survivor. And she's finally living her life. She has a job at the dry cleaners, and which she enjoys. A man named Joe, friends who see her for who she is, and 4 grown children, now with families and petty dramas, the likes of which Paula could only have hoped for. Despite its ghosts, Paula has started to push her past aside. That's until Paula's eldest, Nicola, turns up on her doorstep, independent, affluent, and a loving wife and mother, a success. Nicola is suddenly determined to leave it all behind over the next few days. As Nicola gradually confides in Paula the secret that unleashed this moment of crisis, mother and daughter find themselves untangling anecdotes, jokes, memories, and revelations to confront the bruised but beautiful symmetry of what each means to the other. I love a good book about mothers and daughters. It sounds really interesting. It's probably going to have sad moments. I don't know if it's going to necessarily go down the sad mom bent that a lot of the previous Booker and International Booker books have gone down, but I'm interested in this. I'm also interested in finally reading Roddy Doyle. So this is also kind of on that selfishly I want to read it list. I feel like most of this list is actually, you could just do hashtag I just really want to read this, so I hope it gets long listed. And that is the same for Hombrecito by Santiago Jose Sanchez. I know that one of my friends really loves this, but I think that this sounds really, really interesting and right up my alley. It's a queer coming of age story about a young immigrant's complex relationship with his mother and his motherland. Sanchez plunges us into the heart of one boy's life. His mother takes him and his brother from Colombia to America, leaving their absent father behind, but essentially disappearing herself once they get to Miami. In America, his mother works as a waitress when she was once a doctor. The boy embraces his queer identity as wholeheartedly as he embraces his new home, but not without a sense of loss. As he grows, his relationship with his mother becomes fraught, tangled, and a love so intense that it borders on a vivid pain, but is also the axis around which his every decision revolves. She may have once forgotten him, disappeared, but she's always on his mind. He moves to New York, ducking in and out of bed with different men as he seeks out someone to make him whole again. When his mother invites him to visit family in Colombia with her, he returns to the country as a young man trying to find peace with his father, with his homeland, with who he's become since he left, and with who his mother finally become to know her secrets, her complex ambivalence, and fierce love. So this is a moving portrait of a young person between cultures, between different ideas of himself. It sounds beautiful. It sounds exactly up my alley, and I need this to be long listed so I have an excuse to read it sooner rather than later. Does that not sound? It sounds phenomenal. Anyway. So this is one of the few books on the long list that I've actually read, and I'm not actually sure about this. I feel like this could be our Demon Copperhead of 2024, and that's James by Percival Everett. I feel like this might be a little bit too American for the Booker Prize, but I'm hoping that since it's a retelling of a classic, and because Everett has been on this list before, and I think The Trees, Ben Reed's good, and I were talking about this, but there were similar thoughts around The Trees as well. You could put the same argument around that book, that it's a little too American centric, but maybe he'll get away with it and get on the long list again, because I think James has gotten a lot of praise and I really loved it. I think it's phenomenal. When you get to the end, that last scene is so moving. I put my arms up. I was like, yes, it's so freaking good. If you know nothing about James, it is a retelling essentially of Huck Finn from Jim's perspective. It is moving. It is a scathing portrayal of America and racism and slavery, and it is so good. It is just phenomenal. It's such a phenomenal book. I love this so much. I do hope it gets longlisted because I do think it deserves to be longlisted, but I do wonder that it may just be a little too American for the long list. Next up is probably the longest book on my predictions list, and that is Praiseworthy by Alexis Wright. I had not really paid any attention to this, and then as I was reading, actually I did read some things, as I was reading predictions lists and watching predictions videos, looking at things, this book kept coming up. Then I realized that a bunch of my friends are reading it as well, and so I have a copy of it now on my Kindle. So I'm probably going to start reading this soon. I want to finish a couple of books first because it does sound very interesting. And I was told that if you like Mariana Enriquez, I will like this. So I'm hoping that I will like it. This is an Australian author, which I think we don't see a lot of Australia on the list. So I'm hoping that this gets longlisted just to get some Australian representation on the Booker long list. But also it sounds really good. And I read the first page or two on my Kindle, and it's definitely a really interesting voice. I've been told that this is the kind of book that you just let go and let the author do their magic, and it is going to wow you. So I I am ready. I am very excited to read this. But this is an epic set in North Australia. It is told with a richness of language and scale of imagery for which Alexis Wright has become renowned in a small town dominated with a haze cloud which heralds both an ecological catastrophe and a gathering of ancestors. A crazed visionary seeks out donkeys as a solution to the global climate crisis and the economic dependency of the Aboriginal people. His wife seeks solace from his madness in following the dance of butterflies and scouring the internet to find out how she can seek repatriation for her Aboriginal Chinese family to China. One of their sons, called Aboriginal Sovereignty, is determined to commit suicide. The other, Tommy Hawk, wishes his brother dead so that he can pursue his dream of becoming white and powerful. In this novel, which pushes allegory and language to its limits, a cry of outrage against oppression and disadvantage, and a fable for the end of days. This feels Booker. It would be interesting if this is not on there. It sits at about 736 pages. There's usually some behemoth kind of book on the Booker. This feels like it could clinch that spot. I'm excited to start this. I have some friends that are really loving it. I have some friends that are a little bit lost. I feel like just that describes a Booker book. This next one maybe isn't like hashtag asterisk I just really wanted to read it, but I keep seeing it everywhere and people seem to love it. And that's Caledonian Road by Andrew O'Hagan. I don't really know much about this, but it seems, I mean, I'm just looking at the Goodreads right now and it's like fantastic, rating. It's like 4.02 on Goodreads. This is an irresistible, unputdownable state of the nation novel, the story of one man's epic fall from grace in May 21 of London. Campbell Flynn, an art historian and celebrity intellectual, is entering the empire of middle age, fueled by an appetite for admiration and the finer things, controversy, and novelty. He doesn't take people half as seriously as they take themselves, which will prove the first of his huge mistakes. The second, Milo Mangasa, his beguiling and provocative student. Milo inhabits a more precarious world, has experiences and ideas which excite his teacher. He also has a plan. Over the course of an incendiary year, a web of crimes and secrets and scandals will be revealed, and Campbell Flynn may not be able to protect himself from the shattering exposure of all his privilege really involves. But then he always knew that when his life came tumbling down, it would occur in public. I mean, I still don't know if I want to read that from that summary. People do seem to really enjoy this. So I mean, I won't be upset if this is on the Booker, because it would be interesting to see what all the fuss is about, or as my partner would say, the fuzz. But I don't know. People really like it. There are a couple like 2 and 1 star review here. I mean, this 1 2.5 star I just came across this. It says, I thought it was trying so terribly hard to be all things to all people. Could this be like the Prophet Song book of the 2024 Booker, where you're like, you either thought this was the biggest piece of fucking garbage that you've ever read in your entire life, or you thought it was earth-shatteringly profound? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out at the end of July. Who's right? What's on the list? I have no idea. Let's talk about another book. This I actually pulled specifically from watching Ben Reed's Good. The way that Ben described this, I need to read this. So this is on the list very much selfishly for myself, and that is the Night Alphabet by Joelle Taylor. This sounds so freaking good. Jones's body is covered in tattoos, but she wants to add one final inking to her gallery, a thin line of ink mixed with blood that connects her body art together, creating a unique map. As the two artists set to work, Jones tells them the story behind each tattoo. As Jones is no ordinary woman, these are no ordinary tattoos. Each one represents a doorway into a life Jones fell into, a remembering. Some of these lives were in the past, others in the future, some are sideways, but each of them connects Jones to the two tattoo artists in some way, though they are unaware of it. We visit the dystopian cities of the Quiet Man, the coal mines of the 19th century in Lancashire, join a gang of vigilante sex workers, enter the world of an incel murderer, haunt the old Mayville gay bar, and uncover plans to genetically modify female children. Each one of the stories brings us closer to Jones's truth and how her life is intricately interwoven with the women tattooing her body. I think this sounds phenomenal. I need to read this. I need to read this. I love this concept of the tattoos and the connecting lines, and how each sort of little change in this tattoo parlor is going to tumble you into a story, a different world, different moment in time, different geographies. I think this is beautiful. It says Night Alphabet is a dazzlingly bold and original work, a deep investigation into human nature and violence against women. I need to read this yesterday, so this better be long listed so that like nothing could distract me from reading this, because I'm easily distractible, as we all know. I really just want to start this today, but I can't start Praiseworthy and this and finish all the books I'm currently reading. But this sounds so good. I need this. I think my favorite thing about Booker prediction videos and doing this whole malarkey, knowing that we're all wrong and it's just no one's going to get it right, is finding books that I hadn't necessarily noticed before, because maybe I'm not on that PR list, or I just didn't hear about it, or like maybe it's not out in the US yet, whatever. And this is like one of those books that gets me so jazzed. I'm excited. Next is My Beloved Life by Amitava Kumar. I probably said that wrong. I'm trying. This is a moving novel that traces one man's life from his birth in 1935 in a small village in India to his death from COVID-19 in 2020. I don't think we've gotten out of like a COVID novel yet, and I kind of like how this is not like specifically a COVID novel, but it does touch on this major event that has touched on all of us. Jadunath Kanwar's beginnings are humble, even inauspicious. While pregnant, his mother nearly dies from a cobra bite, and this is only the first of many challenges in store for Jadu. As his life skates between the mythical and the mundane, he finds meaning in the most unexpected places. He becomes a historian, he has a daughter who becomes a television journalist, and then escapes her marriage for a career in the United States. He sees currents of huge change sweep across India, from independence to partition, Gandhi to Modi. This just sounds like it's going to be a really beautifully sweeping novel of like a chunk of Indian history, and I'm very, very intrigued by this one. It doesn't have a lot of reviews on Goodreads quite yet. People are saying the writing is exquisite, it's sad at times, there's a lot in it and a lot to unpack. It's soul-stirring in its simplicity. This sounds very interesting. Next up is another Booker oldie, and that is Chigozie Obioma and with The Road to the Country. I don't think there is a book that he's written that hasn't been celebrated, and I'm very interested to see this. I haven't read any of his writings, but I do really like Nigerian literature in general, so I feel like there definitely needs to be one on this list, and if Chigozie has one, then it's a book out that's eligible. It's kind of got to be his, right? So this is a sweeping, heart-racing, mystical novel about a university student in Lagos trying to save his brother and himself amid the chaos of Nigeria's civil war, a story of love, friendship, and personal triumph by the two-time Booker Prize finalist, Chigozie Obioma. This is the story of a young man seeking redemption in a country on fire. It is an odyssey of brotherhood, love, and unimaginable courage set during one of the most devastating conflicts in the history of Africa, entwining myth and realism into a thrilling, inspired, and emotionally powerful novel. The Road to the Country is the masterpiece of Chigozie Obioma's writer Salman Rushdie calls a major voice in literature. If Salman Rushdie calls you that. Anyway, I just put this on the selfish list, but also I think that it would be strange if this didn't get on there. I was trying to fill my 13th spot, and I had a few like alternates and things, and I decided to just pull up an alternate from the bottom that I think is one of those skinny little books that's kind of quiet that Booker might love, and that is actually Clear by Karis Davies, and we get some Wales represented on this list too. And this is a stunning, exquisite novel about a minister dispatched to a remote island off of Scotland to clear the last remaining inhabitant who has no intention of leaving. And it is an unforgettable tale about resilience, change, and hope. I have read this. This is beautifully written, and the relationship between these two men, John and Ivor on this island, and how they learn to communicate with each other without a common language, how they develop this relationship and intimacy, how it all sort of plays out in a sort of tragic way at the end. It's a very interesting book, but there are things that I didn't like about it, but I feel like it's got kind of colony-like vibes in terms of setting and this idea of kind of like colonizer and remover of old ways, and forcing people to leave their culture or their world, their existence behind for a bigger, more like oppressive power. I did enjoy this. I think that I just think it would be interesting. It would be interesting on the list. I think that it would be nice to have a nice little short book on the list, but I think that I think that this is the kind of thing people could like. I think this is, I don't know. I just have this feeling about it, which means, I mean, it's never going to happen. Let's go back to, no one's ever going to get this right. This is all just a bunch of BS for us to talk about some books and for me to make a video, but I think it would be interesting. It would be an interesting book on that list. And I haven't really heard anybody talk about it. And sometimes those are the books that end up on this list, as we all remember from last year. Second to last here, we have The Lost Love Songs of BABYYYY Sing by Ingrid Persaud. I'm not good at things. I don't know why I have a channel where I talk because I can't talk. Anyway, like, I think it's about a gangster, actually. This is a tale of 4 women. Popo, brilliant, vulnerable, and struck. She's determined to free herself from the traps of her past. Manalala, a devoted mother. Her only connection to her man is their little boy, and she will do anything to keep them close. For Doris, well, she's glorious, and once she's licked him into shape, her husband presents an opportunity to climb the social ladder. She's heard the awful stories, but she's sure they won't be hers. Rosie just wants to mind her business, her lover, Eddie, at her store. 4 lives connected and controlled by one man, the notorious charismatic gangster BABYYYY Sing. Pull up a chair and let these women tell of the man they believed could love, help, or free them, and how some of them survived to tell the tale at all. It sounds really interesting. It has really good reviews. It's inspired by the true life of BABYYYY Sing, who apparently caused terror in Trinidad during the 1940s and 50s. He was a big-time criminal and gangster, and I don't know, I think it would be interesting. And it's a different perspective than just being set in like Ireland or the UK or the US, which I think is always interesting to diversify the booker in that way. So I'm curious. I would be happy to read this, and I think that it's a really interesting pick that I keep seeing popping up on people's predictions lists, and I would not be mad if this was on the list. And then finally, this is 100% a selfish pick. I don't think this will be on there, but I've been very intrigued about reading this. And this is by a Booker Prize winning translator, and that is The Extinction of Irina Ray by Jennifer Croft. This is about 8 translators and their search for a world-renowned author who goes missing in a Polish forest. It sounds interesting. It sounds fun. And I don't know. I selfishly just wanted to be on this list so that I can read it. Also, I can always just read these anyway, but anyway. So 8 translators arrive at a house in a primeval Polish forest on the border of Belarus. It belongs to the world-renowned author Irina Ray, and they are there to translate her magnum opus, Grey Eminence. But within days of their arrival, Irina disappears without a trace. The translators, who hail from 8 different countries but share the same reverence for their beloved author, begin to investigate where she may have gone while proceeding with their work on her masterpiece. They explore this ancient wooded refuge with its intoxicating slime molds and lichens, and study her exotic belongings and layered texts for clues. But doing so reveals secrets and deceptions of Irina Ray's that they are utterly unprepared for. Forced to face their differences as they grow increasingly paranoid in this fever dream of isolation and obsession, soon the translators are tangled up in a web of rivalries and desires, threatening not only their work, but the fate of their beloved author herself. It's supposed to be hilarious, thought-provoking, and a brilliant examination of art, celebrity, the natural world, and the power of language. It's supposed to be unputdownable. It's supposed to be an adventure. I think it's interesting. I think it sounds like it's fun. I like this setting. It sounds just, I don't know, it sounds magical in all honesty. And it's kind of giving me like a little bit of Second Place vibes in terms of like being stuck in this little house with some artist that you love or you obsess over. I don't know. It sounds right up my alley, and I don't know why I haven't read it yet. I would like a little mystery on my Booker Prize. I mean, we had The Bee Sting, which is kind of a little thrillery moment. So why can't we have The Extinction of Irina Ray, right? A little moment for us to have a little reprieve from maybe some of the heavier books on this list to go through and solve a little mystery and have a little intrigue. But anyway, that is my predictions list. I'm wrong. I know that now. I know that if I get more than 2 of these right, I will be surprised. I will be shocked if I have 2 of the books that are long listed on my little predictions list. But anyway, if you are also going to be participating, celebrating the Booker season, please do subscribe and like and hit the bell and do all those things, because I will once again be torturing my poor self and reading all of the long list as quickly as possible and trying to get reviews out for all of you in time for the shortlist announcement. It's insane. Why do I do this? But I'm going to, and I cannot wait to piss off a whole chunk of people on the internet by not liking their favorite book that probably will win the Booker. Because I still get yelled at weekly about Prophet Song. Though in the last couple of weeks, the tide has sort of turned a little bit. We're in a wave of people that also disliked Prophet Song. I'm sure the next wave will be people who think that I'm an idiot and don't know how to read a book, and that it's the most magical book and wonderful and life-changing and profound book that was ever fucking written. Anyway, I can't wait to piss people off again. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know some of your predictions down below. If there are books that you would put on your list, please tell me. There were a few books that I didn't put on here, like, I don't know, but probably most notably is Martyr, because I feel like it came out a little too early, and it's going to go the way of The New Life, where it got a little too much buzz. It was too early in the season, and it's kind of been overshadowed by some other books at this point. But I still think it's a contender. But for me, I feel like there's reasons to not put it on the long list, so I did not put it on there. But anyway, watch me be wrong. So I've rambled on enough. This is a long ass fucking video. So thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video, whatever it may be, because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want. Bye.
So just sit with me, talking to the night until the morning, building chemistry. I don't think I ever want to go come closer next to me. Trying to find another way to say this, but I think